Welcome everyone to the Answers on Video series. I'm Axel Threlfall in New York with Charlotte Rushton, Managing Director of the large and mid-sized law firms business at Thomson Reuters, for her thoughts on the changing landscape facing legal professionals today. To provide us with some context for the conversation, I'd like to share part of an interview I conducted recently with Paul Rawlinson, Global Chair of Baker McKenzie, one of the world's largest and most prestigious law firms. I started by asking him how Baker McKenzie is managing the increasing complexity it faces, from technological advances to political upheaval to change in the workplace. Here's what he had to say.
So the idea that we had as a leadership team, so we had a board that gets together, and as we developed these ideas, we wanted to keep the strategy simple. And the idea of the partners was to unify around a common purpose, which is navigating and simplifying a complex world. Because in Baker McKenzie, what we do really well, and we don't really talk enough about, is the fact that we've been through markets, through decades, ups and downs. So Brexit and Trump and so is part and parcel of doing business. Our partners have been in these markets for many decades. So we can do it, and we can simplify it for clients. And a people and client strategy really kind of strips away all that is, non-essential. Yeah. So that's on one level. So clients and people want the partners to focus on the core business of talent development, talent retention, and also developing client relationships on a broad scale. Then you've got technology, and you've got new markets to look at, and you've got a whole host of things. But you can also just sort of pace that in terms of the changes in the partnership and the changes that you need to pace it and really sort of keep going back to the basic, how does this pursue the strategic goal?
So lots of very big themes and changing themes to keep lawyers busy. When you speak to your big clients, what are they telling you as to how they're impacted by and responding to the sorts of changes we're hearing about?
Yeah, I mean, the pressure on the large and mid-sized law firms is definitely intensifying, but the overall legal services market is actually growing, driven by increased global regulation and global commerce. But the revenues going to the large and mid-sized law firms is actually pretty flat, and where they are seeing growth is just coming from rate increases. And that's because the General Counsel office within the corporations is feeling intense pressure to do more with less. And so they're looking to bring more work in-house. They're also working with alternative legal service providers to provide some of the services that are lower risk or lower value add, or can be more automated directly to them. And then they're working with the law firms on alternative pricing or fixed priced projects to try and keep those costs down. And the law firms that are winning in that market are the ones who are doing something similar. So they're also working with alternative legal service providers or building those kinds of capabilities in-house to really free up their attorneys to only work on the highest value parts of the matter for their customers. And then they're investing in technology so they can automate some of that lower value work and really make sure that their attorneys are really focused on the value.
You mentioned technology. I also asked Paul about where technology fits amid his priorities and challenges, specifically whether the company was prepared for cybersecurity risks. Here's his response.
I hope we are. I mean, I think we've got a lot of good systems and processes in place. We do, try and get best-in-class comfort levels, but I think we could probably do more. As I think law firms could probably talk together more about what they're doing in common, because it's a common threat to us and our competitors. So yeah, I mean, apart from the ups and downs of the economy, cybersecurity, the war for talent, and that's really keeping our really good partners engaged, energized around the business, because they're the ones who are really driving, making sure our next partners are coming through. We've got lots of issues. Diversity and inclusion is a big driver internally as well. So lots of challenges, but those would be the ones that I'd highlight.
So lots of big issues to manage. When you speak to your clients, what do they tell you about how they're addressing this sort of technology change?
Yeah, I mean, I think there were three things that Paul talked about there. The first, cybersecurity. It is a huge issue for the law firms because they are a target, because they have access to the insider information of the clients that they're working with, some of the biggest banks, some of the largest corporations, but they don't necessarily have the same budgets to make sure that their environment is as secure as some of those clients. And so actually one of the interesting trends is they're looking more to cloud-based technologies, where those cloud providers is really, they can deliver the industrial strength cybersecurity that the law firms need. So that's been an interesting trend that we're seeing. The second part around technological innovation, really the big buzzword at the moment is around artificial intelligence, machine learning, cognitive computing. And those are really technologies that have actually been inside some of the solutions the law firms have been using for years, like intelligent search. But there's definitely more that can be done. Attorneys are working with vast quantities of data when they're doing their work, and there's also parts of the process that are really quite repeatable, and so that's perfect for those kinds of technologies around AI. The third thing he talked about is diversity, and that's something that's a bit of a passion project for me, because you can see when you look at the law firms, especially when you look at gender diversity and racial diversity, they're really nowhere near where the corporations have got to. If you look at entrance into law schools in the US, it's about a 50-50 mix when you look at gender diversity, but when you then look at the associates going into the large law firms, about 45-55 mix, and at the partner level, only 18% of partners, according to the ABA, are women, and at the leadership of the firm, it's even less, about 10% are women in leadership positions. And the general counsels are asking their law firm providers to be more, to match really what they're doing around diversity. So we launched a great program at the end of last year, which is bringing together the general counsel and the law firms. It's called Transforming Women's Leadership in the Law, so that it can work together to solve these issues.
Just before I come on to the last question I asked Paul, back on the AI piece, are big clients scared by what AI presents, or do they feel there's a lot of scaremongering going on?
I mean, I think there is a lot of hype about what could AI do, and could AI really replace attorneys. And none of our clients believe that that's true, and we don't believe that's true. But there is certainly a big part of the work that they currently do, which is more repeatable and can be automated. And the law firms are really quite excited about that technology, so that their attorneys can be freed up to do more of that value add for their clients.
All right. Now, the last part of my interview with Paul Rawlinson addresses the human dimension of change, in particular how his firm addresses the needs of millennials. This is what he had to say.
So it's that type of culture. And again, simplifying a complex world is part of the vision. Make it easy for clients. So that the millennials are great at this, because that's the world that they've grown up with. For the likes of me, I've got to learn how to do that, and I think it's a learning curve. But I think the millennials, as you say now, probably make up the majority of our workforce, associates, and even some younger partners now coming into that sort of category. So they are the ones who are driving innovation and embracing innovation.
Charlotte, how does your business stay ahead of millennials, that generation, when you develop products and services? How do we go about staying one step ahead, as it were?
Well, I think Paul really framed it well when he talked about it being, they look at it from the perspective of their clients, and we're doing the same thing within Thomson Reuters. We're focusing much more on bringing our customers into our design process, right from the early stages, so the ideation stages, using our customer advisory boards to give us ideas, to give us feedback on the ideas that we've developed internally, as well as taking them to the Thomson Reuters labs, where they can see some of the work that we're doing, and they can bring some of their pain points and issues and talk to data scientists, for example, about what could be done. And then we've also started to work much more closely with customers in some of our key projects with a co-development partnership. So the customers are sitting hand in hand with us through the process of developing new products, so that when it's brought to market, it's exactly what they need to match their needs. And then making sure that more customers are involved in the beta trialing process, as well as testing the solutions, so they're really fit for purpose when they come to market. The millennial piece is interesting, because we're not just developing products and services for today's attorneys, but also for tomorrow's attorneys. And so actually we launched just at the end of last year a program with the law schools in the US and the UK as a challenge to get some of the students into our design process. We call it the Student Design Advisory Board. We have a number of students who are now signed up for a year. They get an inside look into some of the products that we're building, and they make sure they bring their own perspective to that. So are these fit for purpose for the lawyer of tomorrow? And that's been really exciting.
Yeah, no, I bet. Charlotte, thank you very much indeed for talking with us today. Charlotte Rushton, Managing Director of the large and mid-sized law firms business here at Thomson Reuters. Thanks for joining us for the Answers on Video series. I'm Axel Threlfall. This is Reuters.